In this video, I will prove definitively that the world is dominated by organized rape culture, and its heart is in the West, right? In Europe, and it's spread to Israel and America, especially. Okay, so first of all, on the Western tarot card, right, the Western occult, who is the devil according to them? Okay, it's an amalgamation of an eagle, a bat, a goat or a ram. Okay, there's cow features there, possibly a lion-headed feature, like in the Bible, where the devil is described as a roaring lion. Now here, look at Pan. Like, this guy looks like Pan, right? See, there's Pan right there. There's another Pan. You look at them side by side, right? Pan and this female who looks like the female archer Pan is trying to rape in this thing. Okay, they're both chained to what looks like a door, but certainly this kind of circle, this metal circle thing that you see chains on in dungeons and so on. So they're below him. They're like in a dungeon, right? The underworld. They're chained to the underworld, and for whatever reason, even though the way out is to face, I think one way to interpret it is the way out is to face the devil, who gives them the light or the fire, the driving force of Lucifer, of Satan, okay? And that leads them to want to rape. And the right of plan, the R-I-T-E is a play on words for R-I-G-H-T, because they pretend they're in the right when they rape. Pan's name backwards is Nap. Waking up equals away, king up, right? Me. They, cowards stay asleep, heroes accept being screened out with me, right? Pretty straightforward. So there's some kind of typo there. See, they are cowards that stay asleep while heroes accept being screened out with me. Okay. Now let's look at Serapis here. And we're going to connect this all, bear with me. The dying and rising god Serapis. It kind of didn't show up that well, right? It took some searching and got some, spyware on my computer trying to get these pictures. Even just going to the images, my computer gets cyber attacked without even clicking on the image. Just type in Serapis, then images. Click in images on Google. Okay. So here we have Serapis. Look at his eyes. Those are rape eyes. Okay, his name is Rape Eyes and Rape Is. You might say, well, I don't believe you. Okay, then why does this guy who's described as a rapist have similar eyes? This kind of disassociated, kind of trance-like state. It's almost like it's cult-induced, but it's often associated with mental illness or something, schizophrenia and stuff like this. Okay, but it's not necessarily the case. And they do things to try to confuse you. It could be drugs, right? Drugs, cult-like state, but it's often this kind of malicious rape state. Look at this guy. I believe this is some famous rapist. I believe in that guy Brock Turner or whatever his name was, or it's somebody else who reminds me of him or something. But look at his eyes. Okay, so that's not a coincidence. And here you have a snake, right? The devil, the ancient serpent, the devil. Okay, so now let's put the organized into the rapist, right? The organized rape by deception scheme of the West. Obviously, if everyone looked like this guy or this guy, women would probably catch on to it, unless they were literally chained or had a gun to their head or being coerced or something. They probably would not go for it. Okay, so what do? How do they deceive you? How's the devil a deceiver? If someone looks like this guy or this guy or this guy or this guy, you think women aren't suspicious of them? So where's the deception coming? Where's the snaking, to snake, to cheat? Who are they cheating? They're cheating the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. Nelson Mandela minus the kind of effeminate look he had at times. Okay, Martin Luther King minus the image editing. They remind me of the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, but they're not quite that. Okay, because they didn't put the martial arts in it, for example. They focused moral intensity, universal pinpoint, and moral precision, rather than people whose philosophy wasn't quite perfect. Okay, so here's Serapis in a different form, and lo and behold, he looks like Jesus. Well, how do we get this rapist-looking guy, okay, who looks like these rapists in the sketch of a rapist? How do we get this snake rapist? How does he become this Jesus-looking thing? Here is next to a picture of fake Jesus, right? Here is Serapis, right? Serapis, okay. His name is next to. His face is next to the fake image of Jesus. Okay, here's Serapis covered by a snake. Okay, going back to this one, right? He kind of looks like a fake Jesus there, right? and it kind of looks like a different variation of the fake Jesus there. There's fake Jesuses that look more like this, and that's why that is. There's fake Jesuses that look more like that. There's fake Jesus that look more like this, and there's fake Jesuses that look more like this, and they're all variations of Serapis. So not only do we have one Serapis variation that looks like a Jesus variation, but there's many of both. Okay, and we'll get to that later when I go over this one with the Pretender, right? There's a TV show called The Pretender. Looks like Johnny Cage, and lo and behold, he looks like the fake image of Jesus. And so does, so does they're from the same kind of gene pool as tons and tons of people, especially the royal family of England. Okay, we'll get to that. Now that we've established that image is based on evil, okay, let's go down here. Serapis Bey. Again, same image as before. Here's another variation, right? His face is slightly different than this one, okay? Bear with me. Isis, Osiris, and Serapis. This is where we get the Royal African Falcon Martial Order. Keep in mind, and I want you to write this down because people are likely to mess this up. There's more than one version of Horus, and there's only one true form of Horus. That's why Har-Wer is called the Great One. Whether the people who argue that their image is Har-Wer or not in Egypt, or archaeologists afterwards, scientists afterwards, there's only one great version of Horus. Horus is a deity of justice. Horus is the idea of the Son of God. Horus is the idea of the top martial arts, the deity of war, the Avenger, the Skywalker, right? This divine, skywalking, heavenly martial artist, African idea with always depicted with brown to very dark brown skin. Pretty straightforward. Some kind of mixed African guy. The Great One is going to be related to the patriarchal line that goes beyond the white man and the Semite and other black people. It's going to be the top martial artist line. He's the god of war through nature. God said, "This is my son," and he is the god of justice, war. And when you truly understand that love must be derived from justice, he's actually also a god of love, right? He's the son of God, right? He's the anointed one. He's anointed with the greatest expression of justice, martial arts, love, and war. And anyone who doesn't obey God through me is just a thief, like it says in the Bible. Okay, you have to go in through the gate. Anyone who tries to find another way is a thief and is treated as such. So again, here we have Isis, Osiris, and Serapis. Now we look at this thing, it doesn't add up. Okay, now again, Serapis is an amalgamation of Apis, a bull deity of Egypt, Hades, and Osiris in the first place. But here we have Isis and Osiris. Osiris is Serapis with, it says with body, and I guess it got cut off. So there's somebody else there. Okay, this must be Isis right here. They both have Egyptian kind of headdresses, and this person has this kind of basket. Okay, and there's a lot of potential connections there. I don't know every possible connection here, but I know enough to know that these people are rapists. For example, if I was to study a pedophile ring, a child molester ring, am I supposed to know exactly what their activities are? That's disgusting, right? How many of you want to learn all their so-called deep secrets? I don't. And so it is with this stuff. But I connected enough to know that they're rape cult scum and that the connections are irrefutable. This is not conspiracy theory. This is not up for debate. These are irrefutable connections that have historical proof before people started fabricating evidence to the extreme and altering images to the extreme like they do today. Okay, so the die is cast. There is no disproving this. If you're a true scientist, you're not going to say, hey, let's look at the modern fabricated evidence and argue that it disproves the ancient evidence before they were extremely modified. Okay, the die is cast. God would not expect you to believe people who argue that these things are not valid proofs because of their new so-called evidence in their completely horrid scientific departments. There's no other way to look at it, I assure you. Okay, now let's go to the army, right? Because Jesus is part of a war spirit, right? Revelation 19, Isaiah 42:13, Exodus 15:3, the Lord is the warrior, the Lord is his name. Okay, so here's a Trojan warrior. Notice the headpiece. Notice his face is depicted as dark because he's an evil guy, right? Hell met, a night, right? Nighttime, darkness. He's a bad guy, okay? He fights any battles the devil tells him to when the devil controls the kingdoms of the world. Okay, see Psalm 118. Psalm 119. No, it's 118, 119, right? One of them is a long chapter. The other one says, oh, the nations surrounded me. In the name of the Lord, I cut them down. And Jesus cited that on his way to being crucified. Okay? Anyway, we see the Christian warrior. Why does he resemble the Trojan warrior? We see these guys, these Roman guys, who have, why are they depicted as Trojan warriors? Let's look over here. Okay? She is assigned first as, Helen of Troy. She is assigned first as chattel to Achilles, then to Agamemnon. She is raped by both. The best she can say of Achilles is that he's quick, and she suffers extreme violence at the hands of Agamemnon. Surprisingly, Helen, a friend of Briseis and also a friend of King Priam, does have a voice. Okay? The rape of Helen, okay, the Guardian, one of the books. Helen did not resist, for Paris turned heads with his fine looks and fancy clothes, and Aphrodite filled her with desire for him. So it's rape by deception. A witch deity. Where we get witches in Western culture, almost first and foremost, is from Hecate and Hebe and Hera, okay, and Aphrodite. These are people with love potions, right? This is where we get these ideas in Western culture, okay, and they're derived from more ancient cultures, okay. She forgot about her home and her family and agreed to run away with him. When Paris arrived back in Troy, Priam, his father, berated him, as did Hector, his brother. Okay, so it's called the rape of Helen for a reason. Okay, she's raped by deception with Aphrodite, and she's raped by, in some versions, I guess at least, by Achilles and Agamemnon, who utterly abuses her. So the West presents a bunch of rapists and say, hey, if you date me, I'll take it easy on you. But those guys are animals. That's their game that they historically play. Okay, and of course Paris, right? Let's see who Paris is. Also known as Alexander, the son of King Priam and Queen Hecuba of Troy, appears in a number of Greek legends. Of these appearances, probably the best known was the elopement with Helen, Queen of Sparta. This being one of the immediate causes of the Trojan War, right? We have Trojan condoms, the Trojan War. Later in the war, he fatally wounds Achilles in the heel with an arrow as foretold by Achilles' mother, Thetis. The name Paris is probably of Luwian origin and comparable to Peri-Zetis, attested as a Hittite scribe's name. The name Paris is etymologically unrelated to the name of the French city of Paris, which is probably not entirely true, which derives its name from a Gaulish tribe called the Parisi. Also Serapis, right? See Paris. Rapes is. That's not a coincidence. Okay, these stories, okay, predate the Bible. And Serapis' cult came later. The cult of Zeus predates the cult of Serapis' cult. So the same kind of thinking went into this story that went into this Serapis cult and the accompanying stories. Simply put, Serapis, Serapis, was an invented god. He was a composite of several Egyptian Hellenistic deities, right? Hellenistic, hell, who was introduced to the world at the beginning of the Ptolemaic Greek period in Egypt during the reign of Ptolemy I, though his legacy lasted well into the Roman period. Okay? Romans, Christ, what are the odds? Okay? Christianity is a kind of Greco Roman invention and twist of pre-existing stories in order to trick people into being raped by them, okay, with deception. They say, well, look, we have money and da. So basically a bunch of rich people are taking advantage of people. And, they say, you want to go broke? I'll go back to the gutter where I found you, and and they're coercing them using the fact that there's a bunch of violent people out there, the streets aren't safe, so on and so forth. That's their model. That's part of why there's all these homeless people and all this crime. Okay, so betas is beast scrambled. Imposter is I'm poster scrambled. You can also get the word Paris when you do interchangeable vowels and do the wordplay on imposter. It's a long story why that is. Here is Adonis or Mithra, and notice he also resembles Jesus. Here is Cupid and Psyche, Eros and Psyche, we're getting erotic desire and Psyche. Here's Hippocrates, a young fake horse, okay? He's a Roman horse, a Greek horse, or something like this. Greco Roman horse will say Apollo, the Greek god of the sun, and he resembles he resembles Prince William. Also pay attention to these. I'm going to have to do this in another video because I'm out of time. But notice how Spartacus resembles Ryu and Sub-Zero and Raiden and Hades and Fist of the North Star.